the perfect mix. Now I welcome also Yelena. She is also my classmate from the ecology master, and she is a pro bird watcher, and will tell some tips about bird watching, some techniques and stuff like that. And then we will have James Caldwell also talking a bit about insects at the river or in the river, and also some identification techniques. Feel free to stay if you want. We understand if it's already a long meeting, if you have to go for any reason. This will be recorded, but I think it will be really interesting to know a bit more in depth some techniques on the field for those of you who are not familiar with those. So, Yelena, are you there?
Hi, everybody, can you hear me? Yeah, cool. Okay. I host disabled participant screen sharing, so I would need an allowance to screen share. Thanks.
Okay, Yelena, I just ask you, as soon as you're done, just make me a host again. But take it away.
Okay. Okay, so everybody sees this now?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. So hi, everybody. I am Yelena, and I am doing bird watching as my hobby for a couple of years, sometimes as my work also. I'm primarily interested in bird behavior, but however, I can, as Jens said, I know a lot about birds. I know to tell you some like global tips and then maybe some general things for people who want to maybe start bird watching or continue or are not as good in it and so on. So maybe I should start. So, okay, what do you need for bird watching? Of course, binoculars. Any of them will do. This is the ones that I use. Pretty happy with them. Cool binoculars. You definitely shouldn't need a bird guide. So that's also something that you can always get either in your library to get some local bird guide or to get some for global. For example, you have a Collins bird guide app that is for the whole Europe, or Audubon bird guide for America. But also sometimes you can find local bird guides at a local libraries for a specific place where you want to go bird watching, and as well they could be really helpful. Also, you could always go to any kind of web page or like just Google the birds in that area to kind of like prepare yourself in advance, or like to kind of see what can you expect while you're there. Or you can have just an expert on board which knows all the birds in that area, and then it's easy for you. But it's always nice to have a bird guide, because some people, sometimes one person will see the bird and not everybody, and that's gonna be pretty tricky then to explain. So when you see a bird, if other people didn't see it or saw just a glimpse, it's always good to kind of open the bird guide and you already have all the information there about the birds in that area and so on. So one other thing which is interesting is to have a scope. However, it's not always useful in all the situations. So a spotting scope is good when you are walking maybe, but if you are going through the river in a canoe or a little boat, or you're going on a bike, then it could be a little bit impractical unless you have a little cart or a backpack to carry your scope. They are also pretty heavy, but I think that they are useful depending on where you are and what's your mean of transport as well. But if you really want to see a bird nicely, then the scope is good. Also, you can take photographs through it and upload them. So those are kind of the essentials for bird watching. And the other thing that is interesting, it could be that you should actually dress for the occasion. So if you are specifically going for bird watching, maybe you don't need to be completely camouflaged in the whole suit, but you should also not have this kind of bright colored clothes, because it is very attractive to birds. They see it easily and then they would not come closer. You should be quiet, which is also very hard in bigger groups, but at least as quiet as possible. And try not to look like a predator. And by that, I don't mean dressed like a predator, but also if you want to take a photo, because as Carlos said, in iNaturalist, you should upload the photos as well. Sometimes that could be pretty tricky. sometimes you see a bird just a glimpse or just hear it or just hear a call, and then you can't upload anything and the bird is gone. But if you want to concentrate, take a good photo, maybe try to approach the bird or like be patient in this moment, maybe like get yourself separated from the group and approach the bird from like an angle or crawling, so that you don't scare it. Also, sometimes it's cool if you to not be super quiet, but if you just are very quiet, if you are quiet and you're walking through the forest and then you sense a bird come like being around like through the bushes, but it doesn't want to approach and you don't see it very good, you can do like these little sounds like pst, pst, or anything else, which can kind of attract these smaller birds, because then they come to investigate you, to see what's going on. Yeah, I don't recommend playing the recordings of the birds to attract the birds, because that is disturbance, and that's one of the points also to like not disturb the birds. So yeah. Then next thing is also to kind of follow the flocks. It's very interesting because like when you see a flock of the birds, it might seem it's all one species, but then you should actually take your time and look around the flock, because then you can see multiple species. Like in these photos here, like there is definitely at least 4 species on here, and maybe on this left photo, like 3 species. And then what I also wanted to tell you is that different birds are active at a different time of the day, of course. So passerines are active at the early morning, which means that you will have to get up a little bit earlier. And if you want to hear or find passerines to be active. Woodpeckers, usually early morning, early afternoon, and also September, at least in Europe. I'm sorry, this presentation is also like Europe centered, but I'm not really familiar with other birds from other continents, so I can't say anything about it. But at least in Europe, September is a very nice time for woodpeckers. They are really active around the early morning, so 10. Then also we have birds of prey. So birds of prey are active when the sun goes up and when it's warm, because they are lazy birds and want to catch the thermals. And especially in September, it's migration time. If it's a nice day, you are pretty lucky, because I think then you will be able to see a lot of birds of prey in your area. And shorebirds, they are usually easily seen at any time, and you can come pretty close to them if you follow the technique, kind of come at an angle of the bird, don't look at it in the eye, and so on. So try to be like as cryptic as possible if you are taking photos. And then as well, September is migration time, and therefore we have some migratory birds. So we have some, but we also don't have some. So some already migrated. That's something to keep in mind, because even though you see a habitat which is suitable for this particular species, you also should look at your watch or phone and be like, oh, it's this date, this bird is definitely not here. But also on the other hand, because it's migration time, you could actually see some very interesting species that you would not see there usually, that just stopped at your river or at a dam to feed or rest. And then there are also some birds that are present all year round. And with these ones, it's actually very nice if you can kind of beforehand inform yourself on which bird is present, where and when, and is this bird present in your area when it could be seen. For example, most of the kingfishers, I think in all the continents, they are non-migratory. They stay where they are all year round. In Europe also, these dippers, pretty common for the rivers. They are there all year round. Blue tits, gray tits, robins, blackbirds. Those are the birds that are kind of there all the time. Also, it's very important to kind of recognize the bird sounds. This is very hard. I used to do cartography, mapping, bird surveys, and then I knew all the bird sounds because I was repeating them all the time. But now I already sometimes have no idea what is it, because I did not repeat, for example, for 2 seasons some bird sound, and then I always have to like revise. And what is the best is, again, if you kind of inform yourself beforehand, take some birds that are kind of like common for that habitat and for your area, and listen to the sounds 2 days before or 1 day before, to kind of get used to this and to hear them better. So when you hear a sound maybe 2 or 3 times before, you will definitely not miss it when you go into the nature. But sounds can be also very tricky, because some birds have so many calls, and I don't know what to tell you about recording them, because that can also be very tricky. So I think when you recognize a call or a sound, which is very short, just write it in the iNaturalist, because if you can't record it, and plus if you can't see the bird, that's the only thing that you can do, unfortunately. So but that's if you are very sure that that's this bird, I guess. Also, sounds sound the same. I really like graphs, so I had to put one here, but in different environments, different birds would actually have very differently pitched sounds. For example, here, you can see this is like urban environment. So a lot of rivers are actually near the cities. So this would be the frequency, or this would be this urban noise. And this is the great tit sound recorded here on the left in an area without the urban noise. And you can see how this is the minimum frequency. And this here is on the right, the great tit sound recorded at the very like high noise, or like in the urban area. And you can see that this minimum frequency is way higher than this one here, which means that birds will adapt to their environment, and the frequency of the sound will be different in a different environment. Similar is for the forest and for the open area. So that could be a bit confusing. That's why it's nice sometimes to kind of practice these bird sounds. And yeah, also maybe the most important thing that I left for the end is a habitat. You should always think about the habitat preference of a bird. If you think you saw something, then maybe think twice, because then if you are not sure, just try to kind of like count all the factors in. Where I am at the river, what is the flow? Because some birds prefer just like calm water. If you are on the river mouth, you will expect different birds or animals than at some other part of the river. So that's all to take into account. Also the surroundings of the river, as I said, is the city nearby? What's the flow like? Is the forest nearby? And then you can just already see with the habitat sometimes, oh, this is the perfect habitat for some species, because some species really have these specific habitats that they like. And then you already kind of know, this might be here. It's a nice time it's the perfect time of the year. And there is a higher chance to see this bird, so I can find it. But also you should look everywhere, because there are always surprises. But yeah, just kind of keep your eyes open and look around. And yeah, that's it. And I think that everybody should just enjoy your time. Don't worry about if you have like 100 birds in the observations or just one. I think that's also fine. No record is also kind of a record. So yeah, thank you for your attention. And if you have any questions, feel free to ask me. Yeah.
Thank you, Yelena. Wow, that was a really good presentation.
Beautiful images.
Yeah,
Thanks.
really nice images. Are they all of the images yours, or you took some off the internet?
There are most of them are mine. Some of them are from my friends, and maybe a couple are from the internet. Yeah, what is from the internet is usually just like in the sources and the links. Yeah.
Thank you a lot.